I did share my story when I'd returned back to work from a long period of illness with my mental health. It's quite hard to be vulnerable and to show people what's so private inside, but I did get a lot of support and I managed to do a talk about it, and the relief after doing it and just the feeling of a weight being lifted, of there being no more secrets, you know. So to show people you feel vulnerable in an environment where you want to be professional and you know, you respect a lot of people, it's very hard, but it was really good for me.
I think it's natural to feel nervous before, you know, you're almost exposing a part of yourself. But the reason you're exposing that part of yourself is the chances are by exposing that part of yourself, people are going to understand you better. I feel as though people have approached me more since I've shared my story, and they've asked me certain questions about what the subject of my story was and how I managed to improve myself from a work point of view, and they've asked if they could be helped in the same way, and I've offered some kind of support from there. So that's been really good, and like I say, I've also formed some friendships. And I think one of the impressive things, I guess, is there's a very flattened hierarchy that comes with storytelling.
Being a storyteller gets you to open up and talk about how you feel. And then you realise that all the other storytellers were feeling just the same.
The advice that I would give for a storyteller who was a little bit nervous about participating in it is just do it. It was a really, really good experience. It was a really positive experience. And for me and for all the storytellers that I have spoken to as well, it has been a positive experience for them as well.
So then when you start listening to these stories, it opens you up to how other people are feeling, or you think, actually, I feel that way, or that story's lovely, or you perceive them differently because you didn't really know them, because as much as, like I say, it's a work colleague, you don't know behind that facade. And it was lovely getting behind people's facades and listening to their stories and thinking, because some of them were sad, some of them were funny, and a lot you could relate to.
Often what I found listening to those stories is there's something personal that you can relate to, and it's then when you see other people also relating to it, other people starting to open up and starting to say, I had that, yes, I've had this. It's a I'm Spartacus moment, and that for me has been really, really powerful.
And it creates connection, compassion, and sometimes I'm absolutely blown away by the courage of people that are just these quiet heroes. So yeah, I think it's remarkable.
I think one of the things that surprised me the most was disappointment in myself, mainly because I somehow felt I knew my colleagues, I knew the people I was working with, but then listening to their stories and listening to the things that they were saying, I realized that, there was a lot more hidden under the surface. It's almost like the tip of the iceberg, and then you're discovering what's underneath the water, really.
Silence is very underrated, and what you tend to find by being allowed that kind of silence that you get with the storytelling, you almost come to your own conclusions because you haven't got somebody else telling you how you should be feeling, you haven't got somebody else telling you how you should be reacting, and then you usually find there's like affirmations with people going, yeah, this is how I would feel by it. So I just think it's a little bit more cathartic than somebody telling you this is how you should feel.
My strategy to reconnect organizations with their employees and work teams with each other is through personal stories. The people telling the stories are the staff. I am a facilitator to empower employees to do so. I create psychologically safe and reflective spaces with boundaries for these stories to be shared. One of my key roles as a facilitator, you'll be glad to know, is to keep to time. And I'd like to assure you that storytelling sessions will strictly last 1 hour, regardless of whether the sessions are online or face-to-face. One thing I must be clear about is that storytelling sessions are not problem-solving sessions. They are really a time to pause, to reflect, and to listen to the emotions about events and the emotions of stories. Each storytelling session will have a theme, and as facilitator, I will meet with the storytellers a couple of times before the storytelling session, maybe a couple of days or weeks before, to discuss a short story around this theme.
So being prepared as a storyteller is really important for the storyteller, in my experience. Having that contact initially, do you have a story? These ones would be good. How about this? So there are some suggestions that and some guides as to which story would be appropriate, or which story you feel would be appropriate. And kind of picking that, and then kind of actually discussing what you're going to say in that story. So what are the points that you're going to raise? So it focuses you in on the things that you would like to share and the issues that you would like to discuss, but in a way that you can communicate quite readily with the rest of your team. I understood what story I was going to tell, and I understood how I was going to tell that story in a narrative that would help me as well.
I met with the facilitator again, and then we went over it, and he was very complimentary about the approach, and again managed to unpick a few more things out of my story. And then on the actual evening of the storytelling, there was myself and the facilitators and the other person who was telling their story. We had a 10-minute meeting beforehand, and it was all nice and soft, and it was a really relaxing, kind of pleasant experience. It wasn't as nerve-wracking as I thought it was going to be, because there was probably 3 opportunities where we'd had to discuss it prior to actually telling the story, so it was really well run.